Hi everyone, my name is Heather and I am the owner and operator of Berner Babies and Iowa Yorkie Babies. If you don't know who I am, I've been a breeder since 2006, so a fairly decent amount of time. And a couple days ago, I put on our pages that I was looking for topics that people would like for me to discuss. And so today we're going to discuss one of those topics. One of my families came forward and asked if I would talk about dog food, which I felt like was a great topic. So, if you haven't followed me for very long or you haven't adopted from me, I will tell you that we offer wonderful health guarantees. So, basically, if something happens with your puppy, something genetic, we basically give you your money back. And part of that stipulation is our dog food. So, we stand behind three different dog foods, and they are Purina Pro Plan, Hills, and Royal Canin. Um, and so the family kind of asked me why. And so let's talk about it. So we've all kind of heard the expression junk in, junk out, right? So it's pretty important what we put into our bodies as far as what our bodies can do. And so this story kind of starts, I think it was back in 2018. In 2018, we were really having a hard time with our dogs' pregnancies. Either they weren't getting pregnant or the dogs that were getting pregnant were having pretty small litters. And back then, we were on a grain free food. And if you can recall back to 2018 and kind of what the we'll just say kind of consensus was grain free was kind of the place to be. It was super expensive. And just the general idea was that all dogs need to be on grain free. It was like the best of the best. And so that's kind of where my mindset was as well. So my dogs were on grain free food. But we were just really having a hard time either getting dogs pregnant or having, decent litters. Our litter size really shrunk from like 8 to 9 down to like 3 or 4. And that's if they were getting pregnant at all. So there was a breeder's thing down in the Des Moines area. And one of the, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, speakers, there we go, were vets. And one of the topics was dog food. So my husband and I jumped on this because it was like, obviously we're not doing something right. Maybe we need to go sit in on this. And I am the type of person, especially when it comes to the dogs. I'm always willing to learn something, but when it comes to the dogs, I feel like I learn something new all the time. I've been a breeder for a long time, but there is always something to learn. Just when I think I've seen it all, I see something new. And that is not an exaggeration. I feel like you can be in this business for 50 years and probably learn something every day. So, anyhow, we decided we were going to go sit in on this vet speaker. Now, right away, they said, this is not sponsored by any dog food company. We do not work with any dog food companies. We are not paid. We are not spokespeople for these dog food companies. Like, we are individual vets, period. So right away that got my attention because I feel like these people are always in bed with someone, right? Figuratively. So she started off by talking about name brands. And so we are all guilty of it. Name recognition. So if you were to walk into a store and see two identical products there, and one is Nike, and one is Bobo. One's a hoodie. They're both hoodies. One's made by Nike, one's made by Bobo. The Nike hoodie is $60. The Bobo hoodie is $40. What are you going to buy? Are you going to go with the name you recognize, or are you going to go with the off-brand? The majority of people, and I'm not saying everybody, but the majority of people are going to go with the name brand, the name recognition. It's important. Marketing pays for so much. It's the same when you go to the grocery store. You know, are you going to buy the Cocoa Puffs or the Chocolatos or whatever they're called? I don't know what they're called. You know, what are you going to buy? You know, Cocoa Puffs has made a fortune off the name, even though the Chocolatos or whatever I said they were called are pretty much exactly the same thing. You know, so many more people buy the Cocoa Puffs because of the name recognition, because of the bird on the box or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't buy Cocoa Puffs. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, the name recognition and the marketing is what sells the product. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I totally get it. I totally get that. Sorry, my throat is so dry. You know, I totally understand what she's saying. So she started off by saying that. And then she also mentioned that when it comes to our own food, people food, nutritionists are involved almost every step of the way. However, that's not always the case with dog food. And so that kind of perplexed me. So it's like they're involved in the beginning and then they are gone. Well, I get that they're involved in the beginning, but don't they kind of make sure that the product stays the same or, you know, whatever? I don't really understand why they're not involved in the entire process from beginning to end until the dog food is no longer manufactured. So then we start talking about grain-free. So here I am. In my head, I'm like, okay, this is me. I'm grain-free. I've got all my dogs on grain-free. Then the words that came out of her mouth, all I wanted to do was get in my car and come home and get every kibble out of my dog's food bowls. She said grain-free is the absolute worst thing that you can feed to your dogs. And then she listed all the things that the FDA had linked to grain-free foods. Heart attacks, cancers. I mean, it was like a long list. It was a long list that you can go check yourself. Like, I came home, I checked, and it was true. Like, the FDA was actively linking, especially the heart attacks and the heart disease and stuff. That's like actively, it's there. So I feel like the worst thing that you can feed to your dog is grain-free food. So then she said that she can almost with 100% accuracy predict when a person is going to say that their dog is on Blue Buffalo or Taste of the Wild based on poor body condition alone. Which got me thinking, so many of my dogs, puppies up to that point, who had complained about constant diarrhea had said that their dog was on Blue Buffalo. Taste of the Wild wasn't near as popular at that time, but Blue Buffalo was. And she said that their marketing campaign budget was so big that is what sold their dog food, not the quality of food. She said their dogs, the dogs that were on Blue Buffalo, had constant on and off diarrhea and poor body condition. And that the only reason they sold such expensive dog food and the quantity of dog food was good marketing. But she said she could almost, with 100% accuracy, guess based on poor body condition alone, guess if they were on Blue Buffalo or Taste of the Wild dog food. And I literally was flabbergasted. Like, I seriously wanted to get in my car so fast and come and take every kibble out of my dog food bowls because my dogs were sitting here on grain-free food. It had also been linked to infertility, by the way, which the heart disease concerned me more because my dogs were on it. Infertility, I can deal with, but I can't be sitting here feeding my dog something that is going to cause them to have heart attacks. I mean, that would be devastating. But I seriously couldn't get home fast enough to get rid of the food. Dead serious. So then she started talking about the foods that she did recommend. And the reason that she did recommend them was because of the nutritionists that they had on staff. She's like, you can call them and ask for their nutritionist, and a person will actually pick up the phone and talk to you. And so They were the Purina Pro Plan, the Hills, and the Royal Canin. And that was impressive to me. She's like, you can almost guarantee, based on body condition, that those dogs are in better condition. Their feces are better, and they have more formulas targeted for like sensitive stomach, for skin, for allergies, for breed specific dogs, things like that. They're actually targeted for a dog's need versus like Blue Buffalo, for example. I couldn't think of another dog brand off the top of my head. She said another thing that was I found extremely extremely interesting was people who feed their dog like people food, like mix their own food like raw or cook for their dog, was that a lot of times they are lacking so much nutrition because they actually don't work with a nutritionist themselves or whatever. So they end up lacking a lot of things. And at the time I had a dog, we didn't know what the allergy was. We figured it out later. And so I was kind of experimenting, trying to figure out what she needed. And so I was actually making her food. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just failing all over. And so I walked out of there feeling empowered because I had the knowledge, but then feeling a little bit like a failure as a dog mom because it's like, well, why didn't I have this knowledge earlier? And now I need to go and fix it. So I will tell you, after we changed to Pro Plan, my litter numbers went immediately up, and my dogs loved it. My dogs loved the Purina Pro Plan. Absolutely loved it. And my Yorkies, I switched them to Hills. They love it. They absolutely love it. And I feel like that right there tells you a ton. They preferred that over the grain-free food. In fact, I mixed it because I didn't want anybody to have diarrhea, even though I didn't want to. But, if you just switch them, then everybody gets explosive diarrhea. It's a bad deal. But they would pick around the Pro Plan or the grain-free. And I don't want to say the name because fine, it was Earthborn. So they would pick around the Earthborn and eat the Purina. They would pick around it. And you would think being grain-free, they're not, they're carnivores. They don't supposedly need all this, but they do need that. They do need the grain. And so they would pick around the Purina or the Earthborn to eat only the Purina. And I will tell you, we had less poop. And I feel like what I said in the beginning, junk in, junk out. When there's a lot of waste in the food that the dog does not need, you get a lot of waste out the back end. And once we switched to Purina, there was a lot less poop, a lot less waste, because the dog actually needed the nutrients and was using the nutrients in the food. Same with the Yorkies, like right away, I felt like, I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. And part of the reason it is in our health guarantee is because I'm willing to give you your money back if there's something genetically that goes wrong with your dog. But I will not, and I cannot support something, and I'm not, I guess I am bashing dog food. But like, for example, if you buy a Bernese Mountain Dog from me who ends up with hip dysplasia, but the whole time you were feeding old Roy dog food, which is junk. It's, it's all fillers and stuff. How can I support that if I don't know what quality of dog food you were giving? At least this way, I know that you're giving quality dog food, and it wasn't because you were feeding junk. Now we know. There's already such a huge environmental factor, but in like hip dysplasia, for example, that we just want to make sure that the food is not a factor. And so I found that seminar, there we go, there's the right word I was looking for. We found that seminar so educational that rather than making food an issue, we're just eliminating the issue altogether. There are, I'm sure, other great dog foods out there. It's just not something that I'm willing to compromise on. Purina is very affordable. Hills and Royal Canin can be very expensive, but I'll tell you what, if your dog has any kind of GI issue, Royal Canin is the way to go. It is such an amazing problem solver if you have a GI issue in your dog. And, like Hills is the only thing I have found where for a small breed dog like a Yorkie puppy, the sugar levels are right. I mean, they have designed that food specifically for the Yorkies. And it has, it literally has a Yorkie puppy right on it. I have tried to venture to another small breed puppy and the sugar levels are wrong. It causes hypoglycemia. Hills has it down. And, I know that the food is expensive, but you're spending a lot of money on these puppies and you want them to be as healthy as possible. And so I know I kind of get passionate about it, but I want the best for these dogs, my dogs and my puppies, which means your dog. And so it's just not something I'm willing to compromise when our health guarantee is on the line. My name is on the line. And so I hope that people take it seriously and understand why it is something I'm so passionate about. So if you have any questions at all, you know the drill. You ask the questions down below and I will answer them as soon as I can. Now, don't come at me in the comments. If your dog is on those dog foods that I mentioned and is doing great, I'm happy for you. But please make sure that you do your research and don't overspend on things that you don't need to, because Purina is a great brand too. And my dogs do absolutely fabulous on it. We have no poor body conditions here. And, so you could go to Purina for a little bit less and get great quality dog food. So anyhow, if you have any questions, put them in below, but no negative Nancy's down below. Okay. All right. Make sure you like and subscribe below for new videos. And as always, thank you so much for supporting Berner Babies. I really appreciate it. Bye, everyone.